Hi, I'm Jamie Crozier. Today I'm going to be summarizing chapters 1, 2, and 13 from our book and our guest lecture from Assessment Techniques. In chapter 1, we learned that assessments are more than just testing and grading students. Assessment involves gathering and using information to improve teaching and learning. They provide us information for decisions about students regarding instruction, selection, placement, classification, and educational policy. Dr. Honeycutt graced our presence and gave us a very informative lecture on the relevance of data in the classroom. The triangulation of data is very important to us as teachers. We need to know the rest of the story, so to speak. We can't make assumptions based on just one set of data. So it's important to gather additional information about your students from past teachers, parents, siblings, friends, and even past test scores can give us some insight. Some important key terms from Chapter 1 are evaluation. This is the application of some criteria to value judgment and interpret evidence of the student's performance or product based on that evidence. A test is an instrument for observing and describing a student's knowledge on given content using a numerical scale or classification scheme. Accountability is a system of holding students, parents, teachers, school officials, and school districts responsible to meet academic performance and student achievement. A formative evaluation is a judgment about quality of worth of materials, curricula, and programs while still under development in order to suggest redesign and refine. Thus, a summative evaluation is a judgment about quality of worth of materials, curricula, and programs after completion. A formative assessment is an ongoing judgment of the quality of a student's achievement while still in the process of learning. So, a summative assessment is a judgment of quality of student achievement after instructional process is completed. Chapter 2 discusses goals of instruction. One important step in the teaching process is to decide the specific learning objective or objectives you expect your students to achieve after completion of a learning segment. Decide what the students are to learn, carry out instruction, and evaluate their learning. These three fundamental activities are interactive as opposed to a straightforward 1, 2, 3 process. Setting clear objectives will help you plan your teaching efficiently, conduct instruction effectively, and assess validly. Statements of specific learning objectives are important. They make general planning, selection, creation, and evaluation of assessment easier. Standards are statements about what students are expected to learn. These are otherwise known as learning expectations, learning outcomes, or essential skills. Types of standards include the content standards. Content standards are statements about subject matter, facts, concepts, principles that the student is expected to learn. And performance standards are statements about things students can perform or do. This is an action. Most of the states have begun to use the Common Core State Standards. This consists of two main documents: the Common Core State Standards of English Language Arts and Literacy in History, Social Studies, Science, and Technical subjects, and the Common Core State Standards in Mathematics. Please visit www.corestandards.org to view the standards. Some districts are using curriculum maps to specify how each objective in the curriculum is derived from the standards. Resources are abundant, and objective examples can be found in teacher manuals, local state frameworks, Common Core State Standards websites, reports, just to name a few. Chapter 2 also briefly discusses Bloom's taxonomy, but more importantly, it provides us with a revised Bloom's taxonomy. The revision improves on the original. As you can see, in 1956 this was the original, and in 2001 it was revised to change the nouns to verbs. Knowledge became remember, comprehension became understand, application became apply, analysis became analyze, synthesis changed to create, and evaluation changed to evaluate. Create was moved to the top of the taxonomy, and evaluate was moved down one. The revision improves on the original by adding a two-dimensional framework into which the objectives and assessments can be classified. The original knowledge section divided into the knowledge dimension and the cognitive process dimension. Knowledge is divided into the types of content: factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. And then the cognitive processes are numbered: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. The advantage of the revised taxonomy is that it allows you to create a broader range of learning objectives. When you're choosing your assessments, if it falls in the first 3 columns, you may want to use like multiple choice, true, false, matching. If it falls in the last 3 columns, you may want to consider something like an essay or a project or a portfolio, something that's going to use these higher thinking level processes. So how do we write the specific learning objectives? They must be student-centered, focused on our students, performance-centered, where we have an observable activity, and content-standard, where the specific content is stated. It is important to create learning assessments that require students to use a combination of specific skills and knowledge to perform complex tasks and solve real-life problems. It is also important to align your assessments to mastery learning objectives and the state standards. So Chapter 13 discusses performance assessments and portfolios. Some important key terms from Chapter 13 are a performance task. This is an assessment activity requiring demonstration of achievement by the student. An alternative assessment is opposition to standardized achievement. This is opposition to multiple choice, true, false, and matching. And then an authentic assessment is directly meaningful to the student's education. Some types of performance assessments are on demand. This is a structured task where the teacher specifies the task and the materials, and the student is aware that they are being assessed. Demonstrations are on-demand performances to show knowledge, but not as long or complex as a project. A naturally occurring assessment is observed in the natural setting, and the student is not aware that they are being assessed. A long-term project can be done as an individual or in a group. The results are a model, a functional object, a report, or a collection. An experiment is an on-demand performance where the student plans, conducts, and interprets a research study. An oral presentation is a verbal expression. This screencast broadcast is an oral presentation example. And then simulation. This is under controlled conditions as an attempt to mimic a naturally occurring event. These can also be computerized. Performance assessments should be scored by using a coherent set of rules to guide judgment and ensure consistency in your judgment. Rubrics are descriptions of levels of performance quality on criteria. Rating scales are numerals reflecting quality levels corresponding to verbally labeled levels of representation. And a checklist. This is a list of performance characteristics that can be marked with a simple yes or no. So when we are creating assessments, we need to use a systematic approach. Be clear, design the task, and then design the scoring scheme. And don't forget align assessment to the standards. That's all, folks. Thanks for watching.